And welcome to our In the Field segment here on the Pulse on Marketing. I'm Butch Stearns, the Chief Content Officer here at the Pulse Network. In this segment, for you, the digital marketer, we take you in the field and look at one person, one company, what they're doing, or one article that spurs something of inspirational value, if you will, for us and for you. And today we go to Advertising Age, and an article in there written by Mikho, who is from an agency in New York called Big Fuel. And the title of the article, Why Social Media Needs TV and Why TV Needs Social Media. Let's bring in Mike right now. He is the Business Development Manager for Big Fuel. Mike, how are you, my friend?
I'm doing great. How are you doing?
Doing very well. Loved your article. Love what you talk about here, but let's get to know you a little bit first.
Thank you.
You are an amazing blue guy through and through. Proud to be a Michigan man, correct?
I am one of those annoying, arrogant Michigan fans.
Hail to the victors, baby. Hail to the victors.
Absolutely.
Champions of the West. Born and raised in Michigan?
Raised in Michigan, yes. I was actually born in the Middle East.
Okay. So, and tell us about your role at Big Fuel and tell us what you guys do at Big Fuel.
Sure. So Big Fuel is a full-service social media agency. We are in the Publicis family. We do everything enterprise social. So our biggest clients, T-Mobile, Starwood, Samsung, Gatorade, and we're essentially full service and like I said, specific to social. My role here is business development. So essentially marketing for the agency, a lot of the boring stuff that every agency person is aware of, inbound RFPs, prospecting, things like that. But the nice thing about social is that it's so new and always changing that I have a chance to market through things like Ad Age and different written stuff that we do. So it's a fun time.
So being a modern marketer, a digital marketer, being on the agency side, being a biz dev guy, working with clients, more so than ever, you're trying to come up with solutions for your clients. And I love this article you wrote about how TV needs social and how social needs TV. So let's dive right into it. Clearly, you deal with clients who you hear what they're saying. You know the need for social, yet unlike a lot of other people, you're not saying that mainstream media needs to go away, correct?
Oh, no, not at all. Not at all. I think one of the things that we do a nice job of here is keeping our own perspective. We recognize that social is powerful and it's growing, and same goes with digital and all the little tech platforms that we see. But it's not a standalone platform, at least not yet. We look at social more than anything else as an amplification tool. So for brands that are investing millions of dollars, tens of millions, hundreds of $1 millions in traditional media, it's a great way to make your dollar stretch further. But for brands that want to use social as a primary mechanism, I think that's a small business thing, whereas we deal in enterprise social for large brands. So our clients are looking at social as a megaphone for what they're saying on TV and traditional means.
So let's talk to the enterprise level business and marketers that are dealing with them. And I love how you put this, where social's growing ability to provide what TV doesn't, and TV's ability to dispel the biggest argument against social. So in your article, to paraphrase, give us the summation of what TV does offer and what it's lacking, and what social has and what it's lacking.
Sure. So if I were to look at them sort of as yin and yang, sure. TV is short-term and directly related to the dollars you spend. So you put some money in market, and generally speaking, you're going to see your sales go up, assuming that you have good creative and good planning. But like I said, it's short-term. When you talk about TV ROI, it's typically how I gain sales that quarter, that year, whatever the case is. With social, you have an opportunity for long-term advocacy, which is a great thing, but there's negatives attached to it. You have to be patient, which a lot of marketers are not accustomed to doing. But you're able to impact your bottom line 3, 4, 5, 10 years out. And you're able to do so in a cost-effective means. So phrase that we like to use is sort of like a heartbeat. When you invest in a TV campaign, your buzz, your conversation, your sales go up. As soon as you take dollars out of the market, everything drops down. The next quarter, you do it again, and you sort of see a heartbeat as time goes on. With social, you can connect the sort of the peaks and increase conversation as you go along, so that conversation never drops down to zero. So to me, social is the earned media component to TV, and TV is the direct impact component of any marketing campaign.
I love the heart monitor analogy. I'll use a different one. Let's use the stock analogy. Everybody wants that rising stock to buy low and to know when to sell high. really what you want to do with social, using a mainstream, is get it off the heart monitor and get it like a rising stock, don't you?
Sure, yeah. So I think TV and social are a great example, but I think as you look at any great marketing plan, it's multiple touch points, and everything serves its own unique sort of pillar in your marketing plan. I think social is about advocacy. I think it's about earned media. I think it's about amplifying everything you're doing. And I think for most major brands, and I say most because this is not the case for all of them, TV is still the pillar of what you're doing. It's still the biggest spending platform. It's still where you're going to drive the biggest buzz. It's still where you have an opportunity to tell a succinct story to the largest community. So, digital plays a role to some brands, radio and TV, radio and out of home play a role. But this article zeroed in on social, but I think it's sort of a microcosm of the entire marketing approach for major brands.
We're talking with Mikho, who is the business development manager of Big Fuel, an agency, a full-size social media agency, full service, excuse me, get the words out, Butch. Full service social media agency out of New York, and a blog and an article he wrote in Ad Age, Why Social Media Needs TV and Why TV Needs Social Media. So talking directly to today's digital marketers who are dealing on the enterprise level, Mike, I think you raise a good point, and this is their world a lot of times, whether they're on the agency side, whether they're dealing direct with clients, either way, whether they're within a corporation. They need a seat at the table. They need to measure success. And as you point out in this article, using TV as an example, which is use Nielsen as its main measurement tool, always, whatever Nielsen is, whatever the proponents and critics want to say it is an accepted form of ROI within the television industry. And when you point to social, there really is no universal accepted Nielsen when it comes to social, is there?
No, and it's funny. I mean, I personally, and I've worked, before Big Fuel, I worked for more sort of niche media buying agencies that dealt mostly in traditional. So I have spent as much time making fun of Nielsen as anyone. I think anyone who's ever worked in marketing has been at a happy hour and made some joke about how inaccurate Nielsen is. But if they're inaccurate by 500%, it's inaccurate by 500% across the board. So it allows for comparisons. And in this day and age, comparison is really what these large brands are looking for. For social, it is tough. There's a lot of different metrics. There's a lot of different tools that you can use to measure. You talk about the term, impressions on social, and it doesn't really mean anything. Likes and comments and things like that, standing on their own, those obviously are not really arguable, but every brand's measuring something different, and every brand has competitors that are measuring the same things with different resources. So it's tough to get a comparison, and I think that we are headed down the right path to standardization because we're getting better and better tools. I mean, Radian 6 sort of controlled social listening for a while, and I know there's new tools popping up that are challenging it, and I think where we are now is in a place where the strongest will soon survive, and we'll be in a position where we know what the best tools are, and the nice thing about that is it'll take longer to get to a place where we can fairly compare like we are with Nielsen, but the one that ends up on top is going to do so because it was the best, not because it was there first or it was the only, which unfortunately I think was the case for broadcast.
So let me ask you a question. Clearly, again, the modern day CMO needs a seat at the table and needs to justify to his CEO that the money being spent on social is justified. So I understand that point from the need from his perspective or her perspective to have a standardization when it comes to it. But quite honestly, do you think we really need standardization? Do you think we'll ever get there when it comes to social? When you consider all the different channels, Facebook, Twitter, whatever, Pinterest, when you consider the conversations and how they take place, when you consider the level of influence, how social should be measured, do you think we really need to get to a standardization beyond that, trying to sell it within our company or to the modern day CEO?
Need is a tricky word. I think it goes company to company. I think every company needs to be able to understand social in a way that makes sense for their marketing mix and their business goals. And I think that's critical. I think that's number one. Do we need a single unified company to say, here's how we're going to measure social across the board? No, I don't think so. I think that the competitive set is good. I think that the fact there's always a new platform popping up that can do something more accurately or faster or more efficiently is great. What I think there's a need for, and I hope I'm not repeating myself, is uh, a way for brands to look at everything they're doing, TV, radio, out of home, social, digital, figure out where each of them mix together, figure out where's your support components, where's your main drivers, and then measure everything in a way that is unified within your scope, and then also in a way that's easily digestible within your organization and agency to agency, because as all these platforms pop up, nobody has one agency anymore. You have a bunch, and you need to be able to share information across the board, internally and externally, in a way that is conducive to speed.
So to wrap this up, if I'm hearing you, and to amplify that point you just made, it seems to me the main point that you're making with this article, why social media needs TV and why TV needs social. From a marketer's perspective, the main point is that when you're strategizing, when you're looking at getting messaging out there to reach customers for your products and services, or your clients' products and services, when you're doing that, basic marketing principles, what you really want to do is don't do this in a vacuum. Do this with a plan that understands how they can both work together, because that's where it's going. That's where it is right now, right?
Yeah, I think nothing should be siloed. And I think that approach can be to marketing and to organization, to any organization across the board. The more separate that these media components are from one another, the more struggle you're going to have, the less continuity you're going to have, the less opportunity for earned media you're going to have. So I think it's absolutely critical for everybody working together, not just in the planning phase, but in the measurement phase as well, and to leverage every positive and every negative. I mean, social media has a ridiculous amount of data. Maybe it's too much to weed through, but if you know exactly what you're measuring and what you're looking for, you can pick out the right data to support whatever your end goal is. And then on the same end, we have decades of media mix modeling that we can plug social media into. And I know that some of our partners are doing some really interesting work using secondary drivers in media mix modeling. So what I mean by that is maybe you can prove that your TV ad or your radio ad drove X amount of consumers to buy your product, but how do you know that your internet ad or your out-of-home ad didn't drive people to that radio ad, or didn't create some sort of supportive component that strengthened your radio ad or your TV ad? So I think people need to look at their marketing mix sort of like a football team. You may have your star quarterback in TV, but without a strong support component, your offensive line, your running back, whatever, it's not a winning strategy.
So final question. When you talk about the symbiotic relationship between social and TV and how they need each other, look into your crystal ball 5 years from now. What's changed? What happens from a marketer's perspective 5 years from now, maybe next year, or has it already happened, in your opinion, and just people will figure it out?
It's tough for me to think 5 years in the future, because if you look at where we were 5 years ago, it's crazy to think where we may be in 5 years. But in the sort of near to mid future, I think that there's going to be a lot of tech innovation, specifically on mobile, that's going to bring TV and social much closer, both in terms of the consumer perspective, social TV, but also from the measurement perspective, the way brands are going to look at this. There's going to be resources dedicated to agencies and brands out there that allow them to track and measure social media with TV, with radio, with traditional and digital marketing. So we're not looking at digital and social and radio and out of home and TV and experiential. We're looking at a core marketing team that simply operates in different ways, but still unified.
Very well said, Mike. I fully agree with you. I think that we're not there yet, and that's where it is going. Is a set, if they're not standard analytics, they're a set of combined analytics that make sense commonly to most businesses, especially at the enterprise level. That makes sense.
Sure, and I want to also mention, for what's coming up in 3 years, 5 years, it's going to be different brand to brand. A company like Nike or Amex or Coca-Cola or Pepsi right now is where some brands will be in 2 or 3 years. So to speak about what's coming up, a lot of companies are still playing catch up. So if we're talking about what's at the sort of peak of innovation, I think that's it's tech companies fostering this synergy between marketing platforms. And like I said, I think a lot of it's going to be mobile. But I do think in 3 to 5 years, you're still going to have some companies who are just ahead of where we are now versus others looking to 10 years from now.
Mike, thanks for your time.
Thank you for having me.
All right, he is Mikho, the business development manager for Big Fuel. The article you can find in Ad Age Digital, Why Social Media Needs TV and Why TV Needs Social. This has been In the Field here on the Pulse on Marketing. I'm Butch Stearns of the Pulse Network.